What is up, guys? Noah Grace back again with ADHD Garage. Today we're working on this HD generation, I think it's a 2009 Hyundai Elantra. Good friend of mine since, kissed the tail of a pickup truck most recently. Just a little bit of front end damage here, but we're going to tear the whole face down. We'll start with the bumper, etc., stuff like that. See what all parts I need to collect. I'm going to go out and collect the parts, see if I can get some paint match stuff by chance, because I am not talented enough to be able to paint, nor have I ever tried my hand at it, so maybe one day, but this is not the car. If you could tell by looking at it, there's a lot of metallic flake in the paint. It's actually very good looking. It's a good looking paint. And this is definitely the last kind of paint color that I'd like to paint myself. It's hard to show up on camera here, but it's quite glittery. Pretty good color, so definitely not one of the ones I want to learn. Well, quite yet, at least. Well, let's get into it. There's a front bumper here. Clearly it's seen a bit of damage. Start off by removing the hood. Already taken the bolts out myself when trailer in it, or else it would have blown up, so we'll just get rid of that. Look at that, fixed. No, of course not. Next up, looks like just some plastic push-pin style bolts, the ones we all love, and some 10mm scattered here and there, so we'll work on that. Nothing too crazy. As you'll see, we now have the bumper and the hood off of the Elantra here. And from the front view, you can tell it's a bit smashed in, and the headlight's damaged, of course. The actual bumper support itself is not bad. It's in good shape. Hasn't been bad at all. Looks like it took all the impact and just pushed it backwards. The core support itself can unbolt from the rest of the car. The frame rails are not pushing at all. Looks like tabs for the fender mounts are a little bit crooked and bent outwards. This fender should be replaced. It's not very good looking. I don't know if I can really save this one. But the friend is on a budget, so we're trying to save certain things that we can. So there's a little tail on here that I could be able to just bend back down. The rest of the fender's in good shape. Not even the mount's broken or anything. Down here, even the guard is good. All the fog light wiring is good. All the wiring is good. Although if you'll notice from the side profile, there is a little bit of damage in here. It looks like the fan shroud itself, possibly the radiator. That core support is pushed pretty far back. You can tell the rad hose is fairly wrinkled throughout there. And if you look, the actual clip for the hood rod here, support rod, normally it's supposed to clip in right here. So when you go to line that up, of course it doesn't move over this far because it's not supposed to sit here. You can see it's probably about 2 inches forward, I'd say about exactly 2 inches forward. So the whole entire core support has been pushed back about 2 inches on this side. It looks like the driver's side took most of the impact, though. You can see it's pushed back a fair bit more than the passenger side when you look from the side profile. Took most of the impact right here and just forced it all backwards. There's a little bit of fluid. Could be water. It could be coolant. Guess we'll see. It looks a little bit wet right there. The mount for the bumper itself is cracked, of course. The grill on the bottom of the bumper is good. Fog lights are good. The mounts for both are not in as good of shape. Passenger side one is usable. The whole grill on the bottom is good. But the tabs on the driver's side are cracked everywhere. So see if we can find a replacement one of those. And the mounting tabs, of course. Looks like it did wrinkle the intake as well. We'll see if we can bend that back out, because it's like a metal reinforced fabric, it seems. A few chunks fell at me while I was tearing it apart. It happens. You'll get that with these big jobs here. But next up, we'll be removing most of this core support here and seeing what damage lies beneath. So that should get pretty interesting because I haven't worked on many elantras. So see if we can get the headlights out. Looks like that one's going to be fairly easy, I'd say. Oh yeah, I think we'll be good there. The passenger side is not as bad. Of course, the mount is broken, but it'll come out like a normal headlight should. And then we'll have to disconnect all the cables and any wiring and unbolt the actual core support from the frame rails themselves, which are also not wrinkled. None of the crash boxes are pushed in at all. It's actually perfectly fine throughout here. All the damage went through the core support and sadly what looks to be into the radiator, but we'll see when we get a little bit closer. But the crash boxes are beautiful. Just all in the core support. So we're going to unbolt all this, and then after disconnecting everything, the whole core support should just pull right off. So let's get to it. So, after the complete teardown on the face of the Hyundai here, it's actually not quite bad. So, everything that is completely destroyed, horribly mangled, is all easily removable. The bumper, core support, it's definitely seen better days. It's folded up like a pretzel. Some of the stuff is savable. The intake piping going in the airbox, possibly the passenger headlight if I plastic weld a new mount on it. And of course that front support piece, because it is not even wrinkled. There's nothing wrong with it whatsoever. Packaging all the bolts separately and the rubber mount for the rad. So far I'm not seeing a whole lot of damage to the rad. I pulled the rad and the AC condenser outwards a little bit because they were a bit like bowed inwards. But there was no real damage to them whatsoever. Like they actually look overall fine. The only place I could see where the rad was wet was actually coming from the neck, which is the only thing I'm worried about because of how far it sticks out. Maybe it did fracture through here somewhere. I can see a little bit of water back here and such. So we'll make sure to top that off and we'll get it running and we'll see how that goes. But before that happens, of course I'm going to replace the fan shroud because it has definitely seen beyond repair sort of damage. So we'll pull this out of there. We'll assess all the damage, figure out what I need to get, and then it should be pretty simple to put it all back together. Doesn't look like too hard of a task at all. It looks like the hose is a bit crimped in here, so we'll move that out of this mount here. Plug, which is just a simple push in and pull. Boy, these things get stuck sometimes. That's always the fun part. There we are. Here's a plug for it. And it looks like it just wants to slip out of the top. The hose may give us a bit of a fight there. We'll see if we can slide it out through here. Move this out of the way. Looks like it's for the, it's for the transmission. So we can slip it past that, hopefully. It's freely mounted in here, so it's a bit hard to move everything around. Fan itself is good, but the whole housing is just obliterated. We'll call that garbage. Overall, though, I'm not seeing any crazy, worrisome things here. Seems as though when I hold the overflow shut, there's no noise that's happening. Of course, I'm not going to be able to feel pressure without any fluid in there. Hoses are extremely dry, though. Not just as far as fluid, but they feel like old and hard. Definitely factory hoses that haven't been maintenance much as far as flushing all the coolant out and putting fresh stuff in. Overall, though, the Hyundai's not so bad. She had taken it to a shop and had a little bit of work done on it, and they had quoted her, I don't even want to know how much, but they had said there was probably there would probably end up being a problem with her cap being smashed as well, which really the front end wasn't that smashed. Like, The subframe is perfectly fine. That natural bow you see right there is actually a clearance C exhaust. It's kind of odd. But the subframe is completely fine and untouched. The frame horns themselves are fine. Of course, I show you the mounting tabs, the fenders. Nothing is really too worrisome here. You got the overflow tube that goes through the core support. Yeah, we'll get a battery connected back up to her and make sure it fires up. Of course, you know, there's no lights or front end connected. Put some fluids in it, and then see if it starts to leak again, and narrow it down from there. See what kind of problems we're going to run into. Go out and get all the parts. Meet you back here for reassembly.